3, 2, 1, you are live.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. And welcome to this South East Planning Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 12th of November 2025. My name is Councillor Vanessa Bell and I'm the Chairperson of this committee. Members, we are streaming the meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put up your hands to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphone, so please speak loudly and clearly and reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers, and please keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. So I do have some notices. We've got comings and goings this evening, so very, very sadly, this is our last meeting where Fiona Bradley will be attending, as she is moving on to pastures new. Fiona, would you like to tell us a little bit about your pastures new?
For those of you that don't know, I'm moving on to the Planning Inspectorate, so I will be dealing partly with planning appeals, but mostly with the local plan examinations. So very, very different for me, but really exciting. But thank you all for having me for the last 2.5 years. It's been a pleasure.
It does. So thank you. So get your plans in order, folks, because you never know who might be scrutinising them.
Yeah, can we have it limited and noted, please, that we're very grateful for the expertise and the input that she's contributed in the 5 years it seems as going to she has been very helpful, very understanding, and has been putting the hotspot up there, sometimes in my opinion unfairly, and you've been very professional all the time, so it's a huge, huge thank you from us.
All of us. Absolutely. Thank you. That's one door closes, another one opens, so I'd like to welcome Mark. Mark, I'm not quite sure of your title, sorry, so I'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mark Jaggard. I'm the new man, which is, well, his role evolved just before we left, Director of Place Planning and Growth. So we picked up all the planning elements which you'll be used to, but I also have the housing team. So really pleased to be joined you. This is week 4 for me, so it's really keen to come out and have a meet all the committee. So many thanks for allowing me to come. And everything's been brilliant since I've been here, and I trust it continues that way. And yes, I've got, I was going to say a long career, without trying to age me, a long career in a number of different councils. And so, yeah, really pleased to be here. We're looking forward to, I was going to say, the challenge doesn't seem quite fair, but everything that Maldon brings. So thank you for the welcome.
Thank you for joining me and welcoming to Thank you. So, moving on, item 2, apologies for absence. Committee Clerk, may I have apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have received apologies for absence from Councillors Bassinger and Mayborn.
Thank you very much, Committee Clerk. So, members, item 3, minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of October, which were circulated earlier today in a members' update, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Neil, members, can we agree those by assent?
It was quite short notice though.
Yes.
I know it's only 2 pages, but you know, it is really short notice.
There seems to be a little bit of a bottleneck with minutes at the moment. So I always worry it's because I forgot to sign off, but I don't think it is this time.
So I understand, but I'm not complaining about that, but it's very difficult when, you know, full diaries and you don't get it till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock.
Thank you. Appreciated, Councillor Stone. Yes, thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests, and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Any declarations of interest, members?
No.
No usual reminder if any come up during the meeting to let them know, please. So we will move on to item 500364 FULM, which is Mangapps Store, Maldon Road, Burnham-on-Crouch. And you can find this on pages 7 to 18 of your agenda packs. There is a members' update, which was also circulated earlier. And I will move straight on to Devon.
Thank you very much.
Ready.
Thank you, and good evening, members. So the application before you is for a change of use from an agricultural building to B8 storage use, and there's also some operational works involved in relation to the addition of windows and doors. I have the location plan on the next slide. I think this one's quite helpful. Got no pointer. It's just showing you're all aware as where the Burnham-on-Crouch development is, so it just lies directly.
Yes.
Directly adjacent to that, to the west. So here we have the location plan, so that the site, as you can see, is right up there in the western corner of the plan. The site lies outside of the assessment boundary, to the west of Tinkershole and to the north of Maldon Road, and you can also see Burnham Reservoir there on the plan as well. So, as I say, the site's not within the assessment boundary and not part of any allocation within the local plan. So here we have the site layout. There's no additional hard standing or anything like that proposed as part of the development. So HGVs will enter the site via Tinkershole on the eastern boundary, travelling up and entering the building there. A condition has been included on the members' update to ensure that no HGVs will be able to enter the site via the Maldon Road access, just in terms of highway safety considerations. So the grey area that you can hopefully see on the most southerly part of the building is 80% of the building that actually benefits from a prior approval for a change of use already. So this application seeks for going through for the 100% of the building to be used for storage purpose, because the applicant has advised at the moment that it's surplus to requirement. So here we just have the proposed floor plan. You can just see there's some additional doors proposed on the rear elevation, some windows to serve the welfare facilities, and also a door to serve those too. Existing existing floor plan, not much to show you there really. The existing elevations and the proposed elevations, so you can see that the new openings are annotated there on the plans. So these are photos I've taken from the Tinkershole entrance. So the first photo that you can see in the top left corner as you look at it is looking onto the Burnham-on-Crouch development. Then you have, again at the top, looking into the site towards an adjacent agricultural barn, which is open storage. The bottom left is looking onto Maldon Road, and then bottom right is looking further along Tinkershole to the north. Then we have photos from within the site, so that's the open-sided agricultural building that I was referring to, adjacent to application building. The adjacent building doesn't fall within the application boundary. And some views of the application building, and one taken from the eastern side as well in the bottom right-hand corner. Here we have the Maldon Road entrance that we've proposed as part of the condition that can't be used to access the site. So looking from the site onto Maldon Road, standing in the access, so you can see in the top right here, that's the application building there. And looking in the opposite direction towards the west, and then looking straight out of the application from the boundary to the south. So prior approval was granted in September last year for 80% of the application building to be used for storage purposes. Due to changes in practices at the farm, the building has become surplus to requirements. We also note that the LDP and NPPF support business in rural areas with an encouragement for the change of use from agricultural buildings to employment purposes. Given this, and as well as considering that the development would make an effective use of an existing building, and having regard to the fallback position that the prior approval provides, the principle of development is found to be acceptable. Officers haven't found any unacceptable noise impacts or impacts to highway safety subject to the recommended condition, and there are no concerns in terms of contamination. So officers are recommending that the application is granted approval, subject to the conditions set out in the report and on the members' update.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Members, over to you. So the recommendation is to approve. Councillor Brown.
I'll just ask on the 542. It says the number of vehicle trips generated by the development is minimal, creating no more than one vehicle trip during the morning and evening peak periods. How many trips are going to be generated outside of those peak periods?
Are you able to answer that?
Without pulling the transport assessment up, I don't know the exact figure, but given the existing use as well, based on the trips that are generated at the peak time, there are concerns that actually that is the worst case scenario. So outside of that, we are concerned that there'll be negative impacts there.
It's a hell of a location, really, where it is, and have those large vehicles coming in and out. And also, how are we going to enforce that they don't come out on the other side of the Maldon Road? Why don't they just say you can't block that off completely and they have to come in and out of Tingersole? Because if we leave the other bit open, how are we going to enforce it that they don't come out onto the other exit of that site?
The condition is written so that it is precise and it is enforceable. If it is something that, if the access is used for those purposes, then we are able to enforce against it. Given the nature of the access, it's unlikely, given the incline, that they would actually be able to use it for HGV purposes. So the condition is precautionary as well, but I think the risk in that is fairly low.
Thank you. Councillor Fitton and Councillor Stone.
Yes, there are a couple of questions. I mean, the first one is, I looked at the previous application as a change from Class R to Class R, under Class R on there. So I'd like to understand what's the total floor space of the whole building, because that was 80%. So.
Yeah, the floor space is just over 1,000 square metres, hence it coming to committee as a major development.
Okay. So I mean, in other words, the Class R, the previous consent moved it to 80% because it's under 1,000, and this is moving from that position to over because it's over 1,000. And I mean, and it's extant, so it's not been used. That was granted in September 2024. So it looks to me like it might just be a stepping stone.
Yes.
Yeah, but
It's the usual situation of the application we had before.
the reason I'm raising that point is because I've referred to the Economist fact sheet, and yeah, it does say that some sites have not been not come forward, but we've just had one come forward at Knowles Farm on the employment side that's under reserved matters. And I guess what I'm trying to understand in terms of policy E4, it says it's supportive of policy E4. But the policy E4 says things like it will contribute to the viability of the agricultural business as a whole. And I'm not entirely sure, it says has to be good reason. I'm not entirely sure that the reason to be given is because we haven't developed sites in itself isn't necessarily a good reason. So I'd just like to understand how it's a good reason when no good reason to give it up, and the fact that we haven't developed sites within the local development plan.
Yeah, so the under provision of employment allocation, employment sites is part of the justifiable need, but in terms of the viability of the existing business, what they're doing is the farm has moved away from traditional agricultural processes and now focusing on grapevines. So what they're saying is the money that will be created from using this building for these purposes is then being funded back into the grape business. So it's a sort of indirect viability.
I suppose I get that, but I'm sort of going back to that would have been known in September 2024, and that situation's changed very quickly, isn't it? It just seems a little bit, I'm studying the justification in terms of the steps that we made from going to 80% was okay, no it's not okay. And it just so happens that the 80% was allowed under Class R and the B wouldn't. So I'm trying to sort of balance the requirement in terms of the policy, the need for a district, the location of it, because it's somewhat out of the way, isn't it, in terms of logistical hub. So that's what I'm trying to listen with.
Mrs. Black.
If I could just come back on that in terms of the 80% of the floor space that was covered by the prior approval, as set out in the report, that provides in planning terms and legal terms a realistic fallback position. So it's right up there in terms of our considerations of material planning considerations and the weight we give those. Because at the moment they could go in tomorrow, use 80% of that building for storage use and have the 20% remaining. So in terms of considering this as a planning application, it could be seen as a stepping stone, but as we all know that the planning system allows for this. We had to consider the application under the prior approval application because that's what government allows. We now have to consider the application under a planning application because again, that's what government allows. So in terms of weighting and material considerations, given weight to that fallback position is, as I say, very much up there in terms of the amount of weight we have to give it. As Devon said, we've also got the policy considerations that have been taken into account, but I think I would just like to encourage members to understand that that fallback position is very clear in terms of what they could do on a large proportion of that building.
Okay. Councillor Stan.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the explanations, because when I started reading it piqued my imagination, so I went on to look at why the original application didn't even come to this committee and this one's deemed as though it should come to this committee. So I got my little Inspector Clouseau hat on and started to read everything. And it did state in the officer's report, about the planning statement, and it's actually called Carbuncle Farm, but yet on the officer's report it calls it Mangapps Store. So even when I looked at this, I thought, Mangapps is over there. Carbuncle Farm is at Burnham-on-Crouch, and I found it even I have lived there a long time, not among some people, and I thought, where are they talking about? And I passed it today. But what was actually, it refers to this planning statement. It says how good this planning statement is, but yet it says the site is 8 miles from Maldon. Is that as the crow flies? It's not 8 miles from Burnham to Maldon. Even if you put it in Google's maps, it comes up to 11 and 12 miles. So I did start to look and to be picky, but I thought because we've got the new director of planning, I didn't want to show myself up to show how picky I can be. But we have spoken about the accuracies and how it's accepted when things come to this committee or any planning committee. So I was a bit concerned about the accuracy. And I was really pleased when we got the update, because I followed the tractor that uses that entrance, which is not a legal entrance, and I cannot believe when the previous application was granted, there's a big metal gate that goes across. And it goes round a 90-degree bend, and you can see the advertising hoardings, which are still up there. Enforcement do nothing about it there. They're allowed to go in and out that gate. I followed the tractor when he's trundling along, he goes quite fast on the old Burnham bend, straight into that yard, and they don't go round. I know it's a new application, and it says they're going to have to. Can you not close that gate? Can you not get rid of the advertising hoardings?
What do I do?
Because they will use it, believe me. I've followed them.
100%.
I know it's an enforcement issue, I'm just raising it as a general concern for coming out, and they come out and it's a fast road, it's 60 miles an hour there, members. It's not 40 or 30.
That's right.
It's 60 on the bend. So anyway, I do think we need to be careful. I don't know if you can make it stronger, the planning condition, I'm not sure.
Who would like to respond?
I was just wondering whether we want Councillor Stokes carrying on.
Sorry, I thought
I think we all know we've got to deal with it the way we've got to deal with it. But just where it says Tinker's Hole Lane, it's not Tinker's Hole Lane, it's Tinker's Hole. It's just that sort of lane. No, it's not the lane, it's Tinker's Hole. So just when you're actually sort of officers and writing the reports, can I just say, if you're unsure, just check with one of us. And I did notice that the site advertisement, it says where it was advertised, but there's people would never see those. It's on a 60 mile an hour, nobody walks around there. Even the horses don't go around there very much now, because it's not safe with the development. Now I know you think I'm being facetious, I'm not, I'm being a realist. So if you're going to put planning notices, and I know it's been in the newspaper, I was shocked when I saw this. Never expected this application to come to this committee. We know that they did the 80% to fall within the law then, and we know they've done the 20%. We know exactly what goes on within the planning application process. So yeah, if you can just try and reassure me about the road, because I did print off Essex County Council's report to make sure that they had raised any concerns. And I'm being serious, it is a dangerous road that they use that access for, and I have followed them more than once, coming in and out. And it bobs, because it comes on a little camber. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stone.
Get the
I'm going to give officers the right to
Let me
respond.
get the answers first.
And then I'm going to Councillor Siddle-Norman and then Councillor Joshua.
Can I just check, does the access serve a use other than the building, do you know?
No.
Sorry.
That's to be corrected. The agricultural open-sided barn could be accessed by that. It doesn't fall within the red line boundary, but there is potential for them to use that access.
They do use that access. I'm not fibbing.
No, I'm agreeing.
Is it the blue band? Sorry.
No, fine.
And also, what you've got to be aware of is the mud. If they're using that access with that development coming on, you're going to spread all that mud, and we come into that time of year when I get my inbox full of mud on the road and dangers on 60 miles an hour. So what you're actually now allowing them to do is put more mud on the road.
Finding out with the road surface that was
Still not
Can impose a condition on it, well, no.
So
So I think,
right. Yes.
just agreeing with both my colleagues, I think the condition, or the strongly worded condition relating to the new use is appropriate, and I think that's what my colleagues are suggesting with that condition. And I think I also reflect that my colleagues were saying they could look to see if that condition needs to be strengthened. I think if they start using it, it's a straight breach of condition policy. I also reflect that if there are other users of that area which use that junction, to actually stop it up and stop those other users using it, particularly as it's on blue land, would probably seem unreasonable. People might say, I've already got an existing use there. What I was looking at, and it's not helpful, but I'm just being realistic here.
Can I ask, existing use for how long? How long does that law or that matter? Because when that original application was approved many years ago, it said they had to put the hedge to hide the big carbon units, what's there. And there is a gap now where the gate is. And that was part of the original.
We can look into that. I don't know, they changed the rules around enforcement 18 months ago, 2 years ago, to then bring in 10 years for if the breach had lasted 10 years. I'm trying to remember what happens to a breach of condition, whether that's in terms of 10 years for enforcement.
There's no condition on the last application.
So we can take that back and ask enforcement future. And in terms of advertising hoarding on the frontage, I don't know whether that is, I haven't seen it, so by the way.
It's dark.
Oh, they look, yeah, it's dark, as you said.
Yeah. But whether that is advertising hoarding within the advertising regs, or there are different powers under the Highways Act to remove.
Do you know, some of the advertising has been picked up by an officer who isn't here tonight, who I believe has reported it back, because they're like mushrooms, aren't they, cancer stamping, left, right and centre, so I believe an officer spotted that.
Sometimes under the Highways Act, I think it's under the Highways Act, you can give in quite quickly and do things and remove it yourself rather than having to take the advertising, and you can also do fixed penalty fines. I'm not sure if it's something that Maldon does at the moment. development, and it wouldn't be the planning enforcement team doing it if it's under the Highways Act. But we can again look into that and see that. In terms of where I was heading with the highway safety issue is the NPPF is very unhelpful on highway safety. So I just
Don't worry, can I interrupt and save some time?
yeah.
It actually says on the conditions that the previously agreed and approved application in 24, Transport and Highways Impact Development, it's I'll let you have it. The site has existing access of Tinkers Hole Road to the east and Maldon Road to the west. The proposed change to use will exclusively use the eastern access to Tinkers Hole Road.
Brilliant. Even though it's not called Tinkers Hole Road, it's just called Tinkers Hole. Brilliant.
It says on the previous condition.
So we need to enforce, we need to...
Yeah, that's where the conditions come from on this application.
Yeah.
So we need it
to be robust, don't we?
Well, that's the prior approval application where it was, the information that came in with that was saying that they would access the site via Tinkers Hole.
Yeah.
And that's where the condition that we've put on through the members update has come from, because we realise we do want to make sure it is only Tinkers Hole. I think my concern is if we insist on blocking up the access, are we going beyond the realm of this application? So would it potentially be unlawful because
we'll just enforce it.
we don't know.
Just enforce it.
Is my concern at the moment.
Just enforce it.
Yeah, it's a condition on the 2024 one. Yeah. Councillor Norman, thank you.
Like what I was trying to say, has been said by Councillor Stamp. How are we going to monitor and make sure that this happens? Because it seems to me that we sit around, and I've said this many times, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, making conditions, and at the end of the day, but a lot of the time, especially certain people seem to think that they'll get around it sometime in the future in their own way. Now I think that that's a very dangerous road. I think it's the wrong place to have an entrance of anything, and I think that it should be the hedge should be put into the gate removed. Personally.
Thank you. Councillor Fittett, you wanted to come again?
I understand the point you're making. We've already granted the centre development, so whether or not I think it should have been granted in the first place. Under the policy of the environment, there should be a justifiable functional need for the building. The function is proposed directly linked to the new existing use. So we are where we are. So yes, it is what it is, and I don't really see that there's much we can say on the matter in that respect. It's done, isn't it? My concern would be, and I think we've been before, obviously, this opens up the door for it becomes C3 much easier than if it was before, but that's another matter, isn't it?
There is a condition requiring that it remains as B8, so they can't automatically come in for a prior approval application to convert it to residential use. They would have to come in through a planning application, so they couldn't get prior approval for residential and then another planning application or anything like that. They would have to go through the full planning application.
Going to be considerable problems. But there we go, we are where we are.
Councillor Hayward.
I'm just going to throw in really the proposed conditions on the agenda supplement, page 7. What is a HGV? Now we're saying it's all HGV vehicles must go through Tinkers Hole. Now, Councillor Sam said about the tractors and the other ones coming through, you follow down the road. Now, do they classify as HGV vehicles? I believe they're agricultural vehicles.
Can we not
so
just
they
say,
possibly can still use the other
not just say all vehicles?
It's got to be all vehicles. When you put as HGV, I think so the bigger lorry's going to come in through Tinkers Hole, but then your tractors and all that stuff could still come in through our entrance, so we can't actually block the entrance because you haven't told them they can't use it.
Well, I think that comes back, sorry, I think that comes back to my concern about if we were to say just block up the access, would that be sort of overstepping the mark with this planning application? At the moment, if we were to say all vehicles associated with this proposed use must go through Tinker's Hole, again, there's no, in terms of monitoring it for enforcement purposes, we would have no way of knowing that that tractor was related to a different use. And I'm saying I don't know if there is another use going on, but that would be my concern, is that there's no differentiation. If it's HGVs, then it's very clear that that's an HGV going to the site, and that's a tractor possibly going to the site, I don't know, or a car or something else. So at the moment, I think the condition is quite clear in terms of we can differentiate the vehicles in terms of the enforceability of the condition.
Which is where I'm coming from, so you can't close out the gate because it still is used for tractors, other cars, whatever else, because we're not putting it, but it's as long as HGVs don't go through that one.
Because they do grow things in that field, don't they?
Yeah.
It's loud. So, yeah.
Can I speak? How are they going to monitor it? How are we going to know them?
Word of mouth, dash down.
I mean,
Yeah, so picking up the point you raised earlier, we don't, given the number of permissions we grant a year, no planning authority goes out and monitors conditions until an issue is raised. But we do rely on the goodwill of particularly parish councils and local residents to highlight where there's issues. And then we can then target actions, whether that's, and there's all sorts of issues between covert surveillance and RIPA, but I won't go down that line just yet. But we would then be able to target it, look at times, and come out and monitor what's happened with that junction, how it's being monitored, and as a result, then it's a breach of condition notice we could issue in the first place.
you can't just come back on that.
Yeah.
The thing is this, if in fact, the problem is that if we don't monitor and we don't tell them that they're not to be doing it, I've been explained to them that if it continues over a certain amount of years, it's said that because nobody's done anything about it, it'll become acceptable in 10 years. That's what bothers me. I won't be here in 10 years, but all I do know is this, that the more planning applications over the last 20 years that I've come up against, one in Burnham, which I won't go into now, where conditions were put in and they were ignored and have been ignored and continue to be ignored. And now, because it's been going on for being ignored, it is now acceptable. And I think that safety on the road doesn't improve with age. In fact, it gets worse because there's more traffic. Anyway,
I think we'll be able to, I think Councillor Stubb made an interesting point actually when you mentioned mud on the road, because I think that will provide us with excellent evidence, Councillor Sidney Norway, because there will be mud all over the road if these vehicles are using, so we can, but yes, so we can see, and it'll be very clear that that condition is being
as long as
removed.
that happens and that we do take it to task, that's the important thing.
It is, it
And
absolutely.
I think that at the end of the day, that's okay if we've got the people to do it.
Well, absolutely, completely. Members, can we please go to the vote, Councillor Clinton? You have been quiet this evening, Councillor. Go on.
I just certainly first of all welcome to all the shouts, and I hope I haven't scared you off from the south east area of the community so far. But I thought, well, I think my first question would be whether or not you'd be prepared to meet with myself and members of the committee in the new year to have a look at the aged enforcement issues that affect the South East Area Planning Committee area. We do have issues with enforcement, so hopefully you'll be able to take up my offer and say yes.
I can say I'm very happy to come back and
Okay,
whether
well,
this is
I mean, we used to do, sorry, through you, Jim, we did actually used to do this, and it used to be incredibly beneficial for both sides. A, because members get their messages across, and B, we found that there was an awful lot of stuff on the enforcement list that didn't actually need to be on there. So I do hope you consider that. And I just, yeah, thanks. And I just wanted to just speak to the local highways response regarding bad materials, which is on page 14, and the officer's response. Now, I can understand where the officer's coming from, but the problem you have here is where we've got in other industrial areas in Southminster, where the concrete bases have deteriorated so bad they're dragging unbound materials onto the highways. And then you also get an issue where the unbound materials meet the highway, it just all breaks away. So I do wonder if there is, we can leave that condition in, so if the concrete subbase deteriorates, then they would have to make sure it's unbound materials. Highways have asked for it, but you've countered that by saying it's, therefore this post does not require any alterations to the access. So you're talking about the access, so this isn't access, this is the connection to the highway. Because we get, the big problem occurs is where the actual access, I don't know if we've got a picture of the access, but I did have a look at it and it's not in brilliant condition already.
It's awful.
Yeah. It's the concrete slab where you go in and it's in poor condition where it meets the highways. And this is the problem you have. So if that completely deteriorates, it means all the detritus is going to come onto the carriageway, which we know is hugely difficult. We had this problem with the solar farm up at Dengie, which eventually there was a condition, but it wasn't a pre-commencement condition, which turned out to be a real issue because they never did it. They just started the project, never did it, and the whole of the highway now, it's almost a third of the way across the road now, it's just all broken away because of the unbound materials. So I don't know if there is any way we can put that in there. I've seen it elsewhere. I mean, I'm happy for you to go away and think about it, and if we can condition it, but I think it's important.
The perspective I was coming from was that the condition reads as though there's going to be a new access that requires that they can't use unbound material in constructing, and because the application relates to a change of use, it didn't seem reasonable and necessary to impose a condition that required that when there was no works to the access proposed.
You've got more vehicle movement.
But it's ongoing. I mean, once this planning application has been granted, if they don't bind their access road within 10 metres of the highway, there's nothing we can do. And this is what's happened elsewhere in Southminster. There's absolutely, we've got this in Southminster at the moment, the Foxhall Road, there's absolutely nothing anybody can do. And the highways hate it because they're having to repair the edge of the road continuously because it just turns into a great big rut. I guess that's why, I mean, highways would have read this planning application, I'm sure, properly. But they have to put it in as an objection to start with, and then it's been countered. I mean, I'd like to see it go in as a condition and let the applicant appeal the condition if necessary.
So it's a condition to upgrade the access rather than no use of unbound materials. Well,
there should be something in there to say no unbound materials, because if it all deteriorates, we know this, when they built this, it was sort of, it wasn't, well, I'm not going to say too much, but it wasn't built to the highest standard, was it? It's already deteriorated. So I would be far happier, because the problem is Tinker's Hole. You know, you get people driving down there quickly and they come up to the corner, and if you've got unbound materials on the road, you get all the signals, you get everything else. It's a massive, great safety thing, but I'm as keen as everybody else to move on and talk about trees, but I just think from a safety.
We can do that.
Can we leave that and sort it out yourselves?
I think I was looking at my colleague suggesting that they could do it. Because I think the question I was having in my mind and when I haven't conferred is, I think what you're suggesting, which wouldn't need prior approval of the applicant, isn't that it's prior to commencement of development, because those would need to be signed off, but prior to operation of the development, so they can do convert the building into, put the doors on in, etc. But before any HGV movements, that the access is upgraded, or whatever the phrase is we choose, But that way we can then decide and agree the condition today without having to go back to the applicant to ask for permission to impose it.
Are we happy, members?
Yeah.
Super. So we have a recommendation to approve. I so moved. I seconder. Councillor Neil. Members, we now have to take a recorded vote on everything. So I'm not quite sure whether committee clerk, whether you read out the names or whether I do.
Yes.
Not even at this committee.
Why is that?
Because we mistake.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for you to explain how the recorded vote goes and announce a proposal, and I'll read the names out. And if everyone could say they're for or against, or if they abstain the proposal. But yeah, if you could say what the proposal is, and then voting on it.
Thank you. So I'll just hand over to Mr. Jack to explain why this is coming.
We've had two, over the last probably 2 months, there are in different committees been 2 votes which for one reason or other were miscounted. And I won't go into the details of how or why or speculate on that. But I think one was clearly unfortunate, 2 isn't great, in order to prevent the risk of it happening a 3rd time, which wouldn't be very good for our reputation as a council. We've moved to the position of doing a recorded vote, and then it's very easy and clear how the voting takes place.
We've got to do this. So
as the chairman, could I please have the minute from council where this was approved? Where was it proposed? Who was the seconder? What was the vote? Why is this being? I'm sorry, this is contrary to our standing.
Sorry. It's an ask through the chair for the chair to seek agreement from the committee to do a recording.
Right then, so let's go through the motions, and I will seek agreement, and committee you're all going to say no, so we're going to move on.
Well, just say, I mean, we can have a council without being recorded vote, so if we have to say yes to council funding, a recorded vote is a different matter altogether, isn't it?
But this is going to record who's for and against anyway. This just goes back to.
Yeah, it's officially recorded vote.
I mean, this is.
Right, members. So for the minutes, members, so I so propose, I take it, I do not have a seconder.
Just suppose
That we go to a recorded vote.
Yeah, not agreed.
No, it's agreed.
Bless you.
Sorry. Sometimes people don't.
So, no, and will it be possible for Councillor Pratt's comments to be minuted, please? Councillor Pratt's question.
I agree with Councillor Pratt, so I'm wrapping up as well, so I agree with what you said.
I was opposed, but this is not accepted. Do I have a seconder? That's more about.
I know we've not agreed for this meeting, but whether we have how to do that generally, I think we'll park it, we'll say no for this evening. I don't have a seconder, so we will not go to recorded vote.
Sorry, Mark.
So, welcome to South East.
Asking for it and rejecting it.
So we're constitutionally okay then.
You're
not follow the constitution, the council hasn't followed the constitution.
Alright, moving swiftly on, members. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? 1, 2. All those abstaining?
I'll abstain for change.
Oh, and 1 abstention. Committee clerk, do you have that?
You just go for the majority.
Yeah, it's passed.
I'm doubting my own ability to count now.
With respect, by default, we've just had a recorded vote. By default, we've actually said we don't want a recorded vote, but by default, we've just had that. Because this meeting is televised.
This is very true.
So everyone knows what it should just be. A proposal in a second and agreed by a set, and then if anybody wants to vote against it, they can. You can't make up governance as you go.
Yeah,
I've said that before.
say that this committee is very strong views, which is welcome, but we always support the person in the chair and make sure that we don't have those possible discrepancies. So I don't think there is a need here at all.
I don't think we've ever.
We talk about trees.
Officers, trees. Well, no.
That's
Right, and that was to approve the application with the additional condition that we
And the
added.
members update.
Yes, thank you. Committee closed. We had that. Before we start talking about trees.
I do have that, thank you.
So, apologies for the kerfuffle. So, members, we finally then move on. I say finally, that's wishful thinking. Item 6, tree preservation order. Land adjacent to 17 Brickwall Close, Burnham-on-Crouch, on pages 19 to 26. And although a sadler is dealing with that application, we have Sperner again to present, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. So this application will report seeks confirmation of a tree preservation order on a stone pine tree which is located on a piece of land adjacent to the north and east corner of 17 Brickwall Close in Burnham. It doesn't actually fall within the boundary of the residential property. So this is a photo of the tree taken from the entrance of Brickwall Close, looking north. And then slightly closer from this site boundary. Within the site. And looking north towards dwellings on Western Road. You see the garages to the rear there. Okay. So the council received notification that the tree was potentially at risk from being felled, and there was concern raised in relation to nesting and roosting birds. So a tree evaluation method for preservation orders, which I'll refer to as a tempo assessment here on out, was carried out by the council's arboricultural consultant, and the tree scored 15 out of 25, which confirms that it's defensible for a tree preservation order. So the tree preservation order was served on the 24th of June of this year and is required to be confirmed within 6 months. During that time, an application for works for the tree was received and subsequently refused due to insufficient justification. And an unresolved letter of objection has also been received from the landowner of the land to which the tree is located on. The objection relates to ongoing maintenance and safety concerns, suggestions that the tree presents a nuisance and has limited amenity value, and that a TPO will introduce significant delays and complications in terms of maintaining the tree. The requirement to apply for works to a tree subject of a TPO in the future is not a justified reason for not imposing the tree preservation order. The tempo assessment recognised the tree to be of good amenity value, giving it the highest score in that category on the tempo assessment, and it was also found to be in good condition. The officer's recommendation on that basis is that, on the basis of the amenity value of the tree and the immediate threat to it, is that the TPO should be confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, anything to say about this? That's right.
I'm going to be a lone voice
You
here.
don't like trees, Councillor.
I love trees in the right place. This appears to be a massive tree in a tight cul-de-sac. It steals light, it drops pines, but most importantly, and I haven't seen the tempo report for 15 out of 20 or 25? 25, so I don't know. But this is not a native tree. This is an Italian tree or a South European tree. So we're not trying to preserve our own native trees. This is something that was planted perhaps as a nice little thing that you pick up at a garden centre, and it has grown to this massive site which is now overpowering the site. So no, I don't support the fact that it should be a TPO. Yes, it's a shame it's going to have to go, but I think the benefits to the amenity are not as important, in my opinion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pratt. Councillor Singleton.
Well, I live in Woodley Road and we've got 5 Scots pines, the TPOs at the end of our garden. In fact, I think they come from Scotland. Not in, no, they're not good. But however, they have TPOs on them and I'm very happy that they have because they've been there a long, long time and in fact they are beautiful. So I don't agree with what that said.
That's a focus.
Yeah, thank you, John. Maybe I should declare that I'm going through the process of planting 600 trees on my estate at Dengie. Well, big garden. Yeah, look, I think when you look at, if you pop up the image again, Miss Hannah, the view down where it is, yeah, look, I mean, whether it's indigenous or not, I'm not really shout to that, but if we take all the trees out of Burnham, you know, it just becomes an urban sport, isn't it, really? And, you know, we've had these problems before. You know, as soon as something like a TPO comes along, we remember the great one in Tillingham. As soon as they come along, the first objection is there's something wrong with it and it's too big and everything else. But the great benefit of the TPO is that it allows the owner of the tree, you can still prune it, you can still lift the crown, lift the crown. So you can lift the crown, you can do all sorts of bits and bobs and everything else. But you know, we should try and put, you know, we're supposed to be getting a bit carbon neutral and everything else, and you know, and it is a stone pine, not a Scots pine. I mean, it might have come from the stone, we don't know.
It's come from somebody's.
It's come from somebody's, but wherever it's come from, it's there. And in my mind, I love trees. It adds something to the street scene. Yeah, it probably does need it probably does need pruning, it probably does need a bit of work on it so it doesn't overhang and anything else, but at least it will be preserved, and that's what the key is. So, Chairman, I agree with the officer's recommendation and I will support it.
Thank you. Councillor Fitton.
Thank you. I mean, I agree with Councillor Fluke. I mean, when you read the report from the agricultural team, basically saying that targeting pruning will do the job extremely well, and that the crown is excessive, you know, and these are experts on the matter. Obviously, they know what they're talking about. If it was a problem, they'd say it's a problem, so then I'll support the opposite.
Thank you. Councillor Stan.
Yeah, I have an issue with consistency. We've just had some council ban, haven't we, that we voted against in Burnham Town Council for some beautiful trees, including magnolias, I think the Scots pine, etc., down the town, and we all voted against it. There's no TPOs on it, but it is in a conservation area, and this council has agreed to fell them. The results came Tuesday, didn't they? Councillor God. We couldn't understand how this cat, and then when I saw this, I thought, you're having a laugh? You were allowing some, they weren't diseased. One was next to the estate agent, is it Curtis Boyle Street? Or the ship?
No, I think it's a ship.
Can't remember. Anyway, it's in the latest planning response that came out to everybody. So I was unsure about this, but I'm actually going to support Councillor Fluker, Fittock and Norman at this stage, because I think it can be managed by a reduction in the crown. We've got many big trees, but I do hope, and don't put a TPO on a plane tree at the bottom of the Maldon Road, which is what I'm surprised this council's been trying to do, if you want to chop it down. But I'm going to support the gentleman and the lady I've just said, and I think we should. But if it's causing a massive problem, then we need to allow them to cut it back sensibly.
Councillor Hayward.
Obviously, this TPO, I do agree with Councillor in fact, a little bit of the fact it is a pine tree. Alright, so pine trees are very, they can just fall on their own accord, they can do their own thing, they can grow fantastic and then they die. Pine trees are not the best, and obviously it isn't from this country, I can understand from there. Why, obviously this is land adjacent, who does the land belong to? It doesn't belong to that person, so is it just an odd bit of land?
It's a funny little square of land. It's a funny little bit of land next to a house.
The only thing that worries me with the TPO is to put a TPO on that tree, someone has actually asked for a plan to go in to reduce the crown, and that was refused. So we're going to allow that tree to carry on growing. So why was that refused?
That's a very important question.
It is very strange. Why do you know? If you've got TPO on it, allow them to reduce the crown to actually keep the tree looking good, But they said no. So now it worries me. I'm going to put a TPO on that tree and then I'm going to go in to reduce the crowd and they're going to say no.
Yeah, I'm interested as to why that was refused. Can we shed any light?
Yes, I think, just double checking, but I think the application was to reduce the crown by 4 metres.
Oh,
Yeah, which is found to be justified. So yeah, they would need to come in back for something.
Smaller.
Yeah, alternative or a smaller crown.
If the land doesn't belong to anyone, it's not.
It does belong to
Oh, it does belong to
someone.
so it's the person who owns it that's actually asking to reduce the crowd.
Asking that we've done.
Not necessarily, that one.
Did you want to speak,
Yeah,
Councillor?
yeah, I mean, I sort of agree all over the place, but I don't see through it, but surely you can they can reduce it rather than getting rid of it, but yeah, I think there's an issue of how much we're going to reduce it by, is it? So that if it's a hell of a lot, then it's a no, but it's like a couple of metres, that's all right, but I don't see it staying, but to be sort of managed, if you like.
Absolutely, and the TPO allows
Well,
that. So, members, can we get to the vote rather than just saying what we think without any sort of pertinent reasons? Because I think we're all quite keen, apart from Councillor Brown. I don't have to do Right, so members, all of those, so yeah, the application is, I need a second.
Are you proposing it?
Yes, I'm proposing it, Councillor Brown seconded. All those in favour, members?
Agreed.
Agreed, yes, so that is agreed.
Was that 9 out of 9?
That was agreed by assent.
No,
You proposed, you made.
I proposed it and Councillor Brown seconded.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that, Committee Clerk, there's not a kerfuffle again. So, members, you will be very pleased to know that I have no other items of business that are urgent, so I will be closing the meeting at 8:26. Members, thank you very much for your contribution. Enjoy the rest of the